Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Scotland and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years. They are still a relatively new addition to the Scottish beer scene, but they have gone on to become one of the most respected craft breweries in the country today. This brewery are best known for their different kind of fruity, juicy sour beers, so if you're into these kind of modern fruity Berliner Weisses and Goses and stuff like this is one of the breweries that you definitely want to check out. So the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest supermarket releases here in Scotland, and I have to say I'm very, very curious to see what it's going to have in store for us. So hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then we are going to head through to Edinburgh once again, Portobello to be precise, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Vault City Brewing. So this particular beer is called Triple Fruited Mango. It comes in at 6.2% ABV, and this one is another one of these big fruity juicy sour beers, a mango sour to be precise, as the name suggests. But yeah, if memory serves me correctly, this is also the first beer that we've had from Vault City on the channel that's been in a can. So yeah, that should make for an interesting little tidbit in the review as well. But yeah, this is one of two beers that are available regularly through Tesco supermarkets here in Scotland from Vault City. So yeah, I thought we would give it a go and see how we get on with it. So yeah, the Triple Fruited Mango coming in at 6.2% ABV. Let's crack on and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Vault City Brewing before, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to whenever I'm at home in the motherland of Scotland. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Vault City Brewing once again then. So Vault City Brewing are from Edinburgh, as we've mentioned earlier, although these days based in Portobello, and the company was founded back in 2018 by Johnny Horn, Adele Wilkie and Stephen Smith Hay. So Johnny worked at the Hanging Bat in the city, which is a little brew pub on Lothian Road, and Stephen and Adele were regular customers there, and just over time, having seen each other so often, they became friends. But Johnny was studying at the time, and he was also a keen home brewer, as was Stephen. So the two began planning a brewery together, and Adele contributed a lot of the ideas early on, and then she decided to join them officially. But Johnny was a great fan of the Belgian Lambic beers and other types of sour beer, and this really began to rub off on Adele and Stephen, and they felt that at this time there was a gap in the Scottish beer scene for a sour beer brewery, so they decided that this was the route they were going to take. But initially they didn't think much about making money, and so they set up what they called a glorified home brewing kit as their main brewery in Stephen and Adele's kitchen, and they began brewing weekly back in July of 2018. But over the following year, they began to visit different beer festivals and started spreading the word about their beer. And then they started brewing their beers at 71 Brewing in Dundee. And they spent about 16 months there before relocating to their own purpose-built facility in Portobello, closer to Edinburgh. But during the time in Dundee, Johnny left the company to found his own brewery called Holy Goat. And you will see them feature on the channel for the first time very, very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I've heard great things about their beers as well. But these days, Vault City Brewing have their bar called the Wee Vault, which is right next to Haymarket Station in Edinburgh, and they have just opened a 250-person music venue at their new brewery, from what I understand. So that is somewhere that I will need to go and have a little look at. I think there is a connection there to King Tut's Wawa Hut through in Glasgow, actually, which is quite a famous kind of indie music venue. So do go and check that out if you find yourself in Glasgow. But I will need to get down to Vault City and have a little look at the brewery and see if we can do a Meet the Brewery interview with these guys. But as of March 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 145 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And like I said to you earlier, these guys are known for their big fruity, juicy, sour beers. So yeah, if that's the thing that you're interested in, this is a brewery that I highly, highly recommend that you check out. Probably my favourite beers from these guys would be the Iron Brew Sour, the original one. I've heard that the new one is a little bit odd compared to the original, and I also enjoy the Farm to Fermenter series, but we've had some really, really good beers from these guys over the last few years, and I always just like trying the new stuff from them whenever I come back home to Scotland, so I always keep an eye out for the different things that Vault City are releasing. But yeah, that is everything I can tell you about Vault City Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's crack on then and have a little look at this beer itself. So as we mentioned earlier, this one comes in at 6.2% ABV, and it's basically a sour beer with a hell of a lot of mango added to it. So yeah, the triple fruited mango, very nicely presented. This one, the artwork of course is very similar to what we've seen from Vault City before, but this beer is of course in a 440ml can rather than the normal 375ml bottle. I'm not sure if they're only canning the ones that are going into the supermarket. I'm really not sure about that, because for a while they were releasing some kind of like thinner 330 milliliter bottles as well. But this beer cost me £3.50 in the supermarket, if I remember rightly. So that was that would translate to roughly about €4, so about 40 Swedish kroner, and what's that going to be in dollars? About $5 American, something like that. So yeah, plain silver top on the can there. Tells you a little bit about the beer on the side. It says, take something you love and times it by 3. That's what we've done here. All the rich, juicy Alfonso mango of our original session sour multiplied by 3. 3 times the aroma, 3 times the flavour. A vegan-friendly tropical adventure that's fresh, juicy and bold, paired with our mouth-watering base beer. The result is a lingering tartness with each mouthful that perfectly balances the sweetness of the fruit. Ready, refreshing and ready to mango. So yeah, pretty cool. So yeah, 6.2%. as we said. So apparently we should shake this a little bit, invert it to get the fruit. That's what it's saying on the back. It does say shake to wake. So I'm guessing that is a thing. It's not trademarked or anything, so definitely I think we need to invert this one. But yeah, should be pretty nice. But let's crack it open then and see how we go. The triple fruited mango from Vault City Brewing, named after the Edinburgh Vaults, of course, through in Portobello, just outside of Edinburgh these days. Yeah, let's crack it open. Yeah, it was cool to see that they were doing cans these days as well. But as I say, I'm not sure how much of the beer is going to be canned from now on, but they do have a considerably bigger capacity at their own brewery than they did previously. So yeah, I'm sure we might see quite a few other beers in the cans. Maybe some of the more special ones will remain in the 375 milliliter bottles. The cans, of course, are a bit better for the environment. So yeah, there we go. That is the beer out and into the glass. So yes, anyway, we've got all of it out there. I should have left a little bit in just so we could look at the aroma, but yeah, it doesn't matter all that much. But anyway, before the head disappears on this one, you can see that it's poured with about a 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head, but there is definitely a little bit of that kind of orangey, mangoey kind of tint to it, that yellowy mangoey sort of tint to this one. But it looks very nice. The head has faded away to just be a very, very thin foamy layer on top, and there's a nice kind of thicker foamy ring around the edge of the glass. There's 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head. Yeah, it looks pretty much as you'd expect. In terms of colour, you can see that it is this pretty much opaque, very, very bright yellow. What I'll say though is that on the camera, I think it's appearing a little bit brighter to you guys than it is to me on the naked eye. It does have a little bit of a more kind of murky dark and kind of rich yellow. It's almost the same colour as like mango skin, I think, to be fair, which would make sense, wouldn't it? But yeah, you can see this beer is pretty damn opaque, this one. So yeah, remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. That goes a long way to determining the EBC rating. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do and any adjuncts that you put in will of course affect the colour of the beer as well. And when it comes to these big modern kind of fruity juicy sour beers that Vault City do, then yeah, you are going to have to care about that in this one. But yeah, it certainly looks very, very nice actually. Lovely looking beer. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we really need to say about that, but the level of opacity in this one is just crazy. The level of opaqueness in this beer will be down to the oaty character. It will be down to the oats, the wheat, and to to a certain degree the fruit as well. Let's just have a little quick look at the ingredients list on this one. What does it have in it? So yeah, this one does have wheat, oats and mango in it, which makes sense, and barley malt of course. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why this one is pretty much opaque. A lot of the haziness will be coming from the wheat and the oats together in this. But in terms of what you would expect from a Vault City kind of fruit mango sour, it gives you that. There's nothing else we really need to say about the appearance of this one. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma then, and just see how we go. As I've said before, when it comes to these kind of modern fruity juicy sour beers, I find them very simple in terms of their aroma, but if they're done correctly, if they're done well, they're just beautiful. They're beautiful beers. So let's see if this one kind of follows suit with that. Oh yeah, that's very nice. That is very, very nice. It's very straight, again, as I say, very, very straightforward in terms of its aroma, but you can't really ask for much more than that. Yeah, this one, for me, it's actually got a little bit of a more kind of, it's got a little bit of a slightly more sour character to the aroma. Normally these Vault City beers can come across as quite, they can come across as very kind of sweet and very bright and things like that. This one is actually a little bit more kind of sour in its mash. It almost has a little bit of a kind of acidulated malt type aroma to it. One thing I've also noticed with this one is that in some of the languages on the back of this, it says that it contains hops. For example, and I think that would be, that's either, I think that's Spanish actually, it says lupulo. But yeah, it doesn't actually say hops. Oh no, it does say hops in English, sorry, I'm being blind. Yeah, so this one does have hops in it actually, because I was going to say as well that I do get a good little bit of green component out of this one. And as I've mentioned before, there is a kind of bit of a debate amongst the kind of sour beer brewing community whether you need hops in these sour beers or not. But yeah, I think it adds a little bit more depth, and Vault City of course are an advocate of doing that. But some of the Swedish breweries that I like, you know, for example, Elm 11, Elm 11, Fermenterarna, Duck Pond, these guys that do the fruity sour beers over there, they don't put these hops in, they don't put hops into their beers because they say it doesn't need it. So yeah, you can do it either way. But yeah, with this one to me does have a little bit more of a kind of sour, juicy kind of character to it compared to some of the other ones that I've come across before. It almost just has a wee bit of that acidulated malt kind of thing. So yeah, let's just break this down for you though and describe it a wee bit more in depth. It's a lovely, lovely smelling beer. It's almost as if the mangoes just smell a wee bit darker actually as well, but that could just be a specific characteristic of the Alfonso mango, because remember, when fruits are grown in different places in the world, they're going to pick up different characteristics because of the different soil compositions and water profiles and, you know, stuff like this. But yeah, this is very, very nice. But yeah, very straight shooting beer, this one, as you would expect. So for me, it has everything you would want from a Vault City beer. It's got a little bit of bread crust to it. I can smell a wee bit of that kind of nice bread crust underneath. A wee bit of a kind of brown bready sort of thing. A white bready character as well. I don't get so much of the kind of yogurty character out of this one that I have some of the previous Vault City beers. This one definitely strikes me as being a little bit more bready, and I do get a wee hint of a kind of brown bready, wholemeal sort of bready vibe out of this one. So that's very... that is very, very interesting actually. Yeah, really interesting, quirky beer in that sense. So on the the other side of the malty things, like I say, there's not so much in the way of that yogurty character to this one. It does have, you can smell, as I say, there's a wee bit of white bread, there is a wee bit of that kind of petit filou yogurt sort of thing, which usually comes from the oaty side of the beer, but I'm not getting overly much of it. I'm not getting all that much of it in this beer, I have to say. So yeah, interesting malty backbone to this one, I have to say. I really like how that goes about its business. But yeah, so on the, yeah, other than that, I don't think there's too much to say about the malty backbone of this one. I do get a little bit of a crackery character out of it, and a wee bit more graininess the more of it that smell, but the mangoes really start to kind of take over, if you like. But yeah, interesting. So on the hoppy side of things, you do get a fair little bit of green component out of this one. I get a little bit of, there is a wee touch of earthiness in there, I can pick that up. It almost has a wee teeny, for some reason I'm picking up a little teeny bit of an almost ashy character out of this. It almost smells a little bit like Fugos in a sense, which is really unusual. Let me just check that again. I'm getting just a teeny little bit of that almost slightly ashy sort of thing from Fugos. That's really unusual. And yeah, I don't know where that would come from, come to think of it. But yeah, strange, very, very strange. But yeah, maybe it's just me smelling things, or yeah, I don't think they would have put Fugos in a beer like this. But anyway, you do get a nice little bit of a bright floral aromaticity from it, and I'm getting a good little bit of a grassy kind of zesty character in there as well. But yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is really, really nice. The green component, I think, just adds a wee bit more depth to the beer. But on the fruity side of things, it is absolutely mango all the way. There's, you wouldn't expect anything less. I mean, for me, the mangoes, they've got a lovely kind of juiciness to them. I don't find them overly sharp or overly tart or anything like that. But yeah, there's a wee bit of sharpness to them in the beginning, but then yeah, they fade away to just be more like this kind of oily, juicy sort of thing. There's a wee bit of like papaya and apricot and stuff in there. You always get little subtleties of other fruits in these kind of sour beers, but yeah, you can smell it's a really soft but juicy and slightly sharp mango that you get out of this one. So yeah, it's a really very, very interesting beer, this one, I have to say. So it gets a big thumbs up from me on the aroma. It's certainly got my curiosity piqued. I'm curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. Yeah, so as I always say, take a wee bit of time to ponder over the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But yeah, this one is the Triple Fruited Mango, a 6.2% mango sour beer from Vault City Brewing in Portobello near Edinburgh here in Scotland. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh, yeah, that is, I'm going to say, to me, this is quite a wee bit different from some of the other Vault City ones that we've had before. Very, very good beer, but the first impression of this one is that it's lighter and just a wee bit more kind of drinkable. So yeah, that's maybe why they've got it in the can. This one's a bit lighter in its body and just a wee bit more kind of easygoing and drinkable in a sense. But this is very, very nice. Sour, for me, I've always said this on the channel before, for me, there are kind of session type beers, even though I don't really session beer that much, I just like tasting different things, but there are kind of session type beers and more sort of tasty, indulgence beers, can we say. And for me, I've always said that the Vault City stuff, I love the beers that they do, but most of the time for me, a sour beer is like a tasting beer. I go and have one of these when I really just want something a little bit different. But this compared to the other Vault Cities that we've had, and we've had ones up and down the alcohol spectrum, this one really is quite it really is quite different compared to some of those. Actually, I really like how this one goes about its business, for sure. Just a very light and easy-going sour beer, this one, but it still has some of that nice big thick creaminess from the oats, and I guess the wheat will be thickening that out as well. Yeah, I really like this one. You can tell it's got a different vibe to the other Vault City beers that we've had in the past, but I think it really does the job quite nicely, this one. This is definitely an attempt at a more kind of just drinkable and yeah, it's just an attempt at a bit more of a kind of drinkable beer, but it's still got enough kind of thickness to let you know, yeah, this is a Vault City beer. So yeah, this one has got me thinking a wee bit. And after, I don't know how many Vault City things we've reviewed now. It must be about 15 or something like that. But yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of a change of pace. I'll need to have a little go at the Blueberry Maple, I think, now and see what that one's all about, because I wasn't so sure about that one, because that seems as if it was going to be more of a kind of pastry sour in a sense. But yeah, maybe we will need to have a look at that. But yeah, this is lovely. So if you like a mango sour beer, you are going to enjoy this one. It's got a lovely kind of sessionability to it. But let's break the flavour of this one down then for you and describe it a wee bit more in depth. So yeah, where do we start with this then? Let's go for the middle third of the palate then. That middle third of the palate, backbone of the beer, you do get a wee bit of a kind of fresh, slightly, kind of white bready bread crust in there. You can feel just a little tiny bit of that graininess forming at the backbone of the beer. On the white bread, on top of that, you get a little bit of a kind of white bready sort of thing, and it does have a wee bit of that kind of soft, fluffy sort of vibe to it. So I do like that. You do get a little bit of breadiness in this one, and again, I think that's something that sets this apart from some of the other Vault Cities that we've had. I think the barley malt side of this beer is potentially a wee bit more obvious in this because of the bread crust and the kind of white bready notes. So I think that's what's going on in this one. So, yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business in that sense is very nice. But I'm going to say straight away on top of that soft white bready sort of thing, you can feel the wheat just thickening the whole beer out. The wheat just thickens the whole beer out. And I do really like how that side of it comes out as well. Yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me in that sense. So yeah, on top of that as well, you can get the nice kind of creamy, tasty oats there. And the beer, in fairness, it does give you a little bit of that yogurty. It does give you a little bit of that yogurty kind of petit filou sort of thing that I often comment about or comment on when we review some of the Swedish beers that are like this one, the Elma Livens, the Fermenteranas, the Duck Ponds and so on. But this one, as I say, I think this one really just has a bit more of a barley malt presence to it. So I don't find this one, while it does have a nice kind of thick creamy character to it, I think that is on one hand, that sits there on one hand, but it's a lot more balanced out by the barley malt in this beer compared to some of the other ones. So yeah, that's a really interesting point with this one. What I will also say is that on top of the oaty side of the beer and that kind of slightly yogurty petit filou sort of thing, and like I say, it's not overly sweet, you just get a little circle in the middle of your palate there where the oats sit. You do get just a little hint of like a Werther's Original. You get a kind of Werther's Original butter candy vibe to this one, which is kind of cool as well. It just adds a wee bit of a sweet dimension to the malt base in this beer, and I think that works really well too. So that gets a thumbs up from me, I have to say. I really like that. So, yeah, I do like how this one, I do like how it goes about its business in that sense. So, yeah, where can we continue? Where can we go from there? I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate in this one. So let's focus on the back third of the palate. So the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of a bready build up there, a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty sort of thing again. But then, yeah, as you go into the back third of the palate, you can feel that nice kind of fresh white bread crust just gets a little bit more it just gets a little bit more kind of grainy and things. So yeah, I do like how that goes together. But again, you get more bitter flavours out toward the back of your palate. Further forward on your palate, you get the more kind of sweet flavours coming out of the beer. So yeah, that's worth bearing in mind. Yeah. So on the yeah, on top of that kind of bread crusty there, you do have a slightly thicker, you do get a bit of a thicker but softer white bready character coming out of this one. And I feel that the white bread actually is a little bit wetter on that back third of the palate. But then on top of that, you can feel that the wheat is there, and the wheat is very, very smooth in the back third of your palate, but you can also feel some of the oats creeping over into the back third of your palate as well, and they feel a little bit drier actually on the back third of the palate. Then on top of all of that, you have a little bit of yeastiness there, and the yeasty character in this beer just feels like a really big, thick, dense, white bready character. So yeah, that just sits on top of everything, and it gives you a wee bit of dryness to the beer as well. But yeah, I do like how that goes together in this one. But yeah, so if you're on the back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is quite tall, and then as you come further forward, it just squashes down a little bit as you go further forward into the middle third of your palate. But I think the malty side of this beer goes together very, very nicely. But as I say, just my gut feeling with this one is that compared to the other Vault Cities that we've had in the past, this is just a little bit more barley malt leaning, and it feels a little bit more bready rather than being big, oaty and creamy. And it does have that as well, but the barley malt I just think is a bit more prominent in this one, and I think that's what's giving it a little bit more of a kind of sessionability, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the malty and yeasty side of this beer. Let's focus on the hoppy and fruity side of things now. So in the back corners of the palate, you do get a little bit of that, you do get a little touch of earthiness there, but that's very, very minimal. The whole ashy thing that I was talking about and thinking there might be fugos in this beer, that might just be something weird with the aroma or whatever. Sometimes you can get beers like that. I've had beers that smell like really vegetal and stuff like this, and then you taste them and there's none of that in it. So there's just something a bit weird about a little bit of the aroma with this beer, perhaps. So yeah, you sometimes get that. But anyway, as I say, a little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, there's a little teeny bit of herbal character, but as you push toward the front kind of corners of the palate, there's a little bit of floral note there. But the floral note is quite smooth, and then round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. And yeah, I do like that side of this beer as well. So yeah, interesting stuff coming out of this beer, I have to say that. And in fairness, I'm still getting that kind of weird ashy smell when my nose goes in towards the glass. I really don't know what that is. It's little weird things like that that make me want to do the whole beer sommelier course, but in some ways I'm worried that might take away from the originality of the reviews, but maybe something to think about for the future. Anyway, so yeah, green component of this one is really nice and smooth, and I think that suits the beer. But let's focus on the front third of the palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of the palate, you get a little bit of bready build up there, which I do like. So a little bit of bready build up. Base of the front third of the palate, you can feel a wee bit of the bread crust there, but I think the oaty smoothness sits on top of that as well. So on top of the oaty character, for me, there is a little bit of this kind of apricot-y papaya type vibe, but on top of all of that, you get the big, big, juicy mango note out of the beer. So when you first take it in, it has a little bit of sharpness and a wee bit of juiciness and stuff like that. So yeah, I really like how it goes together. So yeah, when you first take the beer in, it has a little tiny bit of sourness to it, but this beer really isn't that sour at all, actually. This is just a nice big kind of juicy, fruity kind of thing, actually. It's really very, very nice in a lot of ways. It's almost like a kind of, in a lot of ways, it's like a mango smoothie, basically, this one. I'm almost tempted to let my mum try this one. My mum hates beer, but I've given her one or two of the Vault City things, and she's been like, oh, that's interesting. So maybe Vault City is the brewery that can finally convert my mum to liking some of these different things. But yeah, the mango qualities in this one are really lovely. You can feel there's just a wee teeny bit of sharpness when you take the beer in. A lot of these sour beers have a little bit of an impact flavour. You always have to talk about that with sour beers, the impact flavour. But you get a wee bit of that just behind the front tip of the tongue. But then the kind of thick, juicy softness of the mango just rolls back there, and it also goes around the side of your palate as well. You also have to remember this, that whenever you add fruit into a beer as an adjunct, it always kind of suppresses a little bit of the kind of hoppy, bitter side of the beer. And again, as I say, that's one of the debates. That's one of the reasons behind the debate between sour beer breweries as to whether you add hops or not. Quite a lot of the older breweries, sour beer breweries in Belgium, will add older hops to the beer so it doesn't take away from the sour side of things. But yeah, the mango in this beer, you can feel that soft kind of that really soft juiciness just spreading around the sides of the palate there to go. It goes about halfway toward the back corners of your palate, which is very nice. But yeah, lovely big thick juicy mango quality just sitting on top of those like papaya apricot-y type flavours that I was talking about earlier. And it just has a wee bit of a slightly, just a wee slight sourness to it. This beer really isn't all that sour. We've had a lot, the berry sours that you'll get from Vault City are far more tart than this one. But I really like this. This is a beer that's, it surprised me a little bit because it was different and more barley malt leading, but it really has kind of grown on me the more that I've drank of it. So yeah, thumbs up to Vault City for doing something a wee bit different. Maybe I need to try a few more of their other session sours and just see if they are similar to this one, a little bit more barley malt leaning, or that's what I suspect at least. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour of this one. Let's round off with the mouthfeel, although we've talked about that quite extensively already. So yeah, for me, this beer, I'd say that this is kind of bottom end of full-bodied for me. The carbonation is very smooth. It has this big, thick, kind of smooth, creamy sort of vibe to it, which works. But as I say, compared to some of the other Vault City ones, I don't find this as thick as them. It has the thickness you'd expect of one of these kind of modern sour beers, or Nordic sours as some people have termed them as well. It really has that to it, but it is a bit more barley malt leading, so it feels a little bit more grainy and light for me. But the water also feels very clean. Scottish water, as I've said to you, it's something we take great pride in, is our tap water. Scottish beers always feel very clean, and so you also get that about this one. So I would say that this one is the bottom end of mid-bodied. In terms of bitterness, I think technically speaking this beer will have 0 IBUs, but you know, you're maybe getting a maximum of like 5 or something like that. You do get a wee teeny bit of hoppy character to this beer, but I suspect most of the hopping is dry hopping in this, which is going to be it's going to be giving you completely flavour and aroma rather than bitterness. But yeah, I like how that goes together in this one. The malty base, as we've said, is lovely. It's really lovely and smooth, but you've also got you also have a really nice just creaminess to it as well, and there's a wee touch of sweetness in there, and the fruity side of the beer is just lovely and smooth and tropical. So you can't really ask for much more than this. This beer delivers on all the levels that you would expect of Vault City, but it gives you a little bit more of a sessionability, which is what you need for a supermarket release. So yeah, I think this beer, it's a big thumbs up from me. If you get the chance to try this one, it's definitely worth the £3.50 that you're going to pay for it. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Vault City Brewing as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future. But yeah, this was the Triple Fruited Mango, one of their Tesco beers here in Scotland, and I really recommend this one. A 6.2% just triple fruited mango sour beer. Can't go wrong with it. Lovely stuff. Till the next time, check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.